the final week before the LSAT. My number one recommendation, of course, is to keep calm. At this point, you've pretty much either got it or you don't, and you want to focus on refining and maintaining the top level performance that you've had up to this point. First off, that starts by consistently waking up at or around the same time that you'll need to on test day. Now, I've put together, of course, a variety of schedules, because that's my thing, to help you out in the final week of the exam. If you're studying full-time, if you're lucky enough to be in that position, then you want to start by taking a full-length timed exam and reviewing it, and continuing to review it, and then taking a day off. You could do this twice in the final week, which would allow you to take 2 full-length 5-section exams and review them in detail. You could also mix in some review of weak areas here and there, especially in the last few days, but the main focus should really be for you at this point, pacing and endurance. You could also do some more relaxed work, maybe by watching some of my videos or reading some articles, just getting cozy with your laptop or your iPad in bed with the covers up, some tea and some blankets, put on some nice music, whatever will help you feel relaxed and keep the stress levels to a minimum. Now, if you are studying part-time, then your situation is slightly different, but mainly what that means is that you won't have as much time to do full exams, and you won't have as much time to review, but pretty much everything else should be the same for you. Now, you want to be thinking a lot at this point about pacing, because timing on the exam is everything. For logical reasoning, for example, you might want to skip the parallel questions and others that are especially tough for you and come back to them at the end. For parallels in particular, you're reading 6 stimuli per question because you have 1 stimulus and 5 answer choices, but you're only getting the benefit of 1 point. And that's assuming you get it right. So answer the questions that are the lowest hanging fruit first. Develop strategies to avoid getting bogged down. The LSAT is a mental game, and you need to develop the concentration and self-control to recognize when you're not getting a return on your time invested in that question. Mindfulness meditation and the mental hacks I mentioned earlier help a lot. For endurance, you're doing full-length 5-section exams, and that's great. But aside from that, you could also build your section-based endurance. So you could do 3 logical reasoning sections back-to-back without a break at least once. You could do 2 logic game sections or 2 reading comprehension sections back-to-back at least once as well. Now let's talk about review. Review, properly done, is not just about reviewing the ones you get wrong. It's also every question you have difficulty with and all those questions where you're down to 2 and guess right. Those are still wrong, or at least half wrong in my book, and for that reason they're worthy of review just the same. And the reason I say that is that they easily could have gone the other way as well. You might also be getting things right but not solving them as quickly as you could be, or as efficiently as you could have done. So it's worth investigating those as well. The reason that full-length exams are valuable is in large part because they give you review opportunities. It's not enough to say, oh, I get it now, after looking at the correct answer or explanations and then calling it a day. So here's the review process that I recommend for you. You want to analyze exactly where your error or misunderstanding stemmed from. Was it in the passage or stimulus, or was it in the answer choices? If it was in the passage, was it your approach to reading the passage or stimulus that was ineffective? Or was it something in the passage text itself that you misunderstood? If it was in the answer choices, was it in the incorrect answer choice you chose? If so, identify what it was about the wrong answer choice that tempted you and what ultimately made it wrong in the end. On the other hand, if it was something in the correct answer choice that made it seem unappealing, identify what that was, and then identify what made it correct in the end. By repeating this process several times, you'll see the different types of techniques they use to make incorrect answer choices tempting, and the same techniques they use to make correct answer choices unappealing. Now, right before test day, it's your job to predict where you'll ultimately end up. So what I recommend is to take the most recent exam as a full-length exam just a few days before the exam itself. This most recent exam is most likely to resemble the current direction of the LSAT as it slowly evolves, and it gives you the best indication of how you'll do on test day. And the most recent exam is such a good representation of the current LSAT that it blows my mind when students bring me all these old exams, like the first book of 10 exams ever released, when students are doing exams from the early 90s. Those raw score conversions are different. The questions look different. So do the recent exams, at least one from the most recent 5 or so, and do those in the final week before the exam. If you're taking the LSAT on a Saturday, you could review the mistakes on Thursday, do nothing Friday, and then do a favorite game or LR question as a warm-up on test day. But for your warm-up, remember, the moments before you enter the test center are not the time to review things you got wrong. They're the time to boost your ego with things you rock at. So those warm-up questions you do on test day, make them a favorite game, a favorite passage, a favorite couple of logical reasoning questions. Don't use those as your prediction of where you stand. Use your final full-length exam, or even better, the average of the most recent 5 full-length exams that you took.